My name is Jin Ryu, and on the day I awakened, the entire Hunter Association laughed so hard that one examiner fell out of his chair. I wish I was exaggerating. In my world, every person awakens one skill at 18. Most get something normal: fireball, sword mastery, healing, enhanced strength. If you're lucky, you get an A-rank skill. If heaven personally signs your birth certificate, you might get an S-rank skill. And if you're one of the monsters whose names end up on statues, school textbooks, and overpriced energy drinks, you awaken an SSS-rank skill. There were only 12 registered SSS-rank hunters on the planet. Then I became number 13. Technically, the awakening crystal lit up gold, then white, then a color I don't think human eyes were supposed to understand. Every machine in the room screamed. 3 monitors exploded. The examiner, Director Han, dropped his clipboard and started whispering that history was being made. Then my skill list appeared. Walking, SSS. Breathing, SSS. Seeing, SSS. Gripping, SSS. There was silence for exactly 2 seconds. Then someone snorted. Then everybody lost it. One hunter slapped the floor. Another guy asked if I could unlock the hidden SSS rank ability called blinking. A reporter outside somehow heard about it within 5 minutes and posted, "Nation's newest SSS hunter specializes in going for a stroll." By lunch, I was a meme. I stared at my status window while Director Han tried very hard not to laugh directly into my face. "Jin," he said, wiping a tear from his eye, "rank measures potential, not necessarily combat value." That was the polite way of saying I had won the lottery, and the prize was a pair of socks. I went home furious. Then I climbed the stairs to my apartment. That was when I realized something was wrong. I lived on the 23rd floor because the elevator had been broken for 6 months and the rent was cheap. Normally I reached the top looking like my lungs had filed a resignation letter. This time I walked up all 23 floors while eating dumplings, texting my landlord and arguing online with a guy whose username was DragonSlayer88. I wasn't tired, not even a little, so I ran back down, then up, then down. Then I sprinted to the roof. My legs didn't burn. My heartbeat didn't rise. I wasn't sweating. I opened my status window and focused on breathing. A description finally appeared. SSS breathing converts atmospheric energy into stamina, mana, cellular recovery, and life force. Efficiency, limitless. I stopped reading after limitless. For scientific reasons, I spent the next 3 hours doing push-ups. At 2,000, I got bored. At 5,000, my downstairs neighbor came up and threatened to kill me because the ceiling was shaking. At 10,000, I discovered my muscles were recovering faster than they could get tired. So naturally, I did the only sensible thing. I tried to hold my breath. I lasted 37 minutes before realizing I wasn't suffocating. My body was recycling stored energy so efficiently that I probably could have stayed underwater longer than most submarines. That was already ridiculous. Then I tested seeing. I tossed a coin into the air. Instead of seeing one coin, I saw 6 ghostly paths around it. 5 faded instantly. 1 remained bright. The coin followed that exact path and landed in my palm. I threw a spoon. Same thing. I dropped a cup. Before it slipped from my fingers, I saw where every shard would bounce if it hit the floor. I caught it. Then my neighbor kicked open my door because apparently doing 10,000 push-ups at midnight was antisocial behavior. Before his foot moved, I saw a pale outline of him kicking. Before his fist moved, I saw 3 possible punches. Before he decided which insult to use, I swear I could see his jaw moving along the most likely sentence. SSS seeing wasn't just sharp eyesight. It showed intent, probability, the future, maybe half a second ahead. For a normal person, half a second doesn't sound impressive. For a hunter fighting something that can bite through a tank, half a second is the difference between hero and obituary. That left gripping. I looked around my apartment for something safe to test. My eyes landed on a metal spoon. I squeezed it. The spoon became a silver pebble. I stared at my fist. Then I tried a frying pan. The handle flattened. Then I accidentally grabbed my refrigerator door too hard and tore it off. That was annoying. My landlord charged extra for appliances. The next morning, I walked to the Hunter Association to demand a retest. I never arrived. I took 1 normal step off the curb and appeared 3 blocks away. A taxi driver screamed. I screamed. A pigeon exploded into feathers behind me. Not because I touched it, but because the air pressure from my movement had insulted physics. I froze. Then I very carefully lifted 1 foot. The world stretched. Buildings seemed to slide backward. Raindrops stopped in the air. A bus became a frozen yellow rectangle. I put my foot down and found myself standing outside the Hunter Association. The trip should have taken 20 minutes. It took 1 step. My status window updated. SSS walking. Movement is no longer limited by distance, terrain, inertia, dimensional boundaries, or common sense. That last part felt personal. I entered the building 5 minutes before my appointment and found a crowd waiting for me. Apparently my awakening had gone viral overnight. Reporters shouted questions. Jin Ryu, Are you the weakest SSS rank in history? Can you demonstrate SSS walking? Is your next skill SSS sitting? I ignored them until a famous B-rank hunter named Kang Daeho stepped into my path. Kang was built like somebody had given a refrigerator anger issues. He had an A-rank skill called Iron Muscle, and 6 million followers who watched him punch things for sponsorship money. He smirked at me. Hey, SSS Walker, want to race to the registration desk? Everyone laughed. I said, sure. Director Han shouted from across the lobby. Wait, don't. Kang took off. His first step cracked the marble floor. I took mine. The next thing I knew, I was standing behind the registration desk with a coffee in my hand. I had no idea where the coffee came from. Kang was still halfway through his first stride. The entire lobby looked frozen. I looked at the coffee cup. The logo belonged to a cafe across the street. Apparently, I'd walked through the cafe, picked up a cup, paid for it, crossed the street, entered the building, moved behind the counter, and returned to normal perception before Kang's shoe touched the floor. I took a sip. Then time caught up. Kang blasted past the desk, crashed into a wall, and embedded himself waist-deep in concrete. Nobody laughed after that. Director Han slowly turned toward me. Jin, he whispered. What exactly did you do? I walked. That answer became the second meme. 2 hours later, I was dragged into a private testing arena beneath the association headquarters. Director Han brought 8 researchers, 3 combat instructors, 1 insurance lawyer, and a priest. I wasn't sure why the priest was there. Maybe the association had learned from experience. They started with stamina. A treadmill increased speed every minute. I walked. The treadmill reached its maximum setting. I kept walking. They replaced it with a hunter training belt designed for speed class awakened. I kept walking. The motor caught fire. Then they tested mana recovery. A researcher gave me a basic mana blast device and told me to empty my reserves. I fired once. My mana dropped from 100% to 98. I breathed in. It returned to 100. So I fired faster. Blast. Breath. Blast. Breath. Soon I was firing like a human machine gun. The target barriers shattered. The emergency shields activated. The researchers started yelling. I kept breathing. The device overheated before I did. Then came eyesight. A combat instructor named Mina fired rubber bullets from 6 automated turrets. I dodged all of them. She activated 12. I dodged those too. She switched the ammunition to paint rounds and told the machines to use randomized timing. I closed my eyes. The room went silent. Why did you close your eyes? She asked. I want to see if the skill still works. That sentence makes no sense. It did not matter. Even with my eyelids shut, pale lines appeared in the darkness, showing where danger would move. I stepped between bullets before they were fired. It felt like walking through rain while already knowing where every drop would land. When I opened my eyes, Mina was staring at me like I had personally offended causality. Then came grip strength. They gave me a hydraulic dynamometer. I squeezed. It broke. They brought a reinforced one used for A-rank strength hunters. I squeezed. It broke. They brought an enchanted device rated for S-rank monsters. I squeezed. It made a sad noise and became modern art. Finally, Director Han placed a sword on the table. The whole room changed. Even I knew that weapon. Dragon Fang, an S-rank relic recovered from the Osaka Calamity Dungeon. It had cut through a Wyvern King, 3 fortress walls, and supposedly an armored ship. The sword's edge couldn't be damaged by normal means. Director Han said, "Do not squeeze it. Just hold it." I nodded. I picked it up. Someone yelled, "Careful!" My fingers tightened by reflex. Crack. The legendary sword snapped in half. Nobody moved. I looked down at the 2 pieces. Director Han's face went pale. The insurance lawyer fainted. The priest crossed himself. I said the only thing I could think of. Was that expensive? Director Han screamed for 30 straight seconds. By evening, the association reclassified me as a special grade irregular and gave me a temporary license with more restrictions than a nuclear submarine. I was not allowed to test my grip on public infrastructure. I was not allowed to use full-speed walking inside city limits. I was not allowed to experiment with breathing near unstable magical reactors, which was suspiciously specific. Most importantly, I was assigned to a low-risk dungeon, so the association could observe my abilities in actual combat. A C-rank gate had opened beneath an abandoned shopping mall. Simple mission: enter, kill goblins, destroy the dungeon core, come home. They paired me with a 5-person team led by A-rank hunter Seo Mira, known as the Crimson Spear. Mira took one look at my file and groaned. "So you're the walking guy." I also breathe. She stared at me. "Please don't make jokes while monsters are trying to kill us." I wasn't joking, but it seemed rude to explain. The rest of the team treated me like luggage. There was Taesu, a shield tank, Yuna, a healer, Hojin, an archer, and Bomi, a fire mage who kept asking whether SSS gripping made me good at opening jars. I said yes. She handed me her water bottle. I accidentally crushed it into a coin. She stopped asking. We entered the gate. The dungeon looked like a ruined underground city, except every building leaned at impossible angles and green fog crawled over the streets. Goblins poured from the alleys within 30 seconds. Mira raised her spear. Formation. I saw the future. Not one future. Hundreds. Every goblin attack painted a path through the air. Every arrow had a line. Every dagger had a shadow. Even falling rubble showed me where it intended to land. Mira lunged at the first goblin. I walked past her. Not fast. Just one step. The entire battlefield froze. I moved from goblin to goblin, gripping each weapon between two fingers and squeezing. Iron swords folded like wet cardboard. Axes became metal balls. Daggers turned into shiny dust. One goblin had a wooden club, so I felt bad and just took it away. Then I returned to my original spot. Time resumed. 50 goblins charged us. Every weapon in the group collapsed at once. The goblins stopped. We stopped. One goblin looked at the handle where its axe used to be. Then it looked at me. I waved. The goblins ran away. Mira slowly lowered her spear. What did you do? I gripped. She closed her eyes like she was fighting a headache. We continued deeper. Every encounter got worse for the monsters. A goblin shaman launched a fireball. I saw its path before the spell formed, walked behind him, and gently tapped his shoulder. He panicked, spun around and fired the spell backward into his own squad. A giant ogre swung a stone pillar at me. I caught the pillar with one hand. The ogre pulled. I held on. SSS grip apparently did more than crush things. Once I decided I was holding something, reality treated the object as mine. The ogre used both hands, then both feet. Then 3 other ogres helped him. I stood there breathing normally while 4 giants played tug-of-war against my wrist. I got bored and took one step backward. All 4 ogres flew through a building. Bommy whispered, "That's disgusting." I agreed, but the dungeon wasn't a C-rank gate. We figured that out when the sky turned red. A huge magical pressure crushed the city. Buildings cracked. The green fog evaporated. Somewhere ahead, something roared so loudly that the street split open. Mira's face changed instantly. Everyone out. Now. The exit behind us vanished. A black wall rose from the ground and covered the portal. Then a system message appeared in front of every hunter. Hidden dungeon condition fulfilled. C-rank gate reclassified. Estimated danger, S-rank. Taesu looked at me. "You had to be here, didn't you?" I pointed at myself. "How is this my fault?" The city exploded behind us. Something enormous climbed out of the crater. It was a goblin. Technically, if goblins were usually ugly children with knives, this thing was an ugly skyscraper with a crown. It stood 40 meters tall, wore armor made of dragon bones, and carried a black sword longer than a train car. 1,000 smaller goblins knelt around it. A title appeared over its head. Goblin Emperor, Calamity Variant. Mira whispered, "We're dead." I looked at the giant sword. Then I looked at my hand. Maybe not. The Goblin Emperor swung. SSS seeing showed me the attack before his shoulder moved. The sword's future carved a red line through the entire district. If it landed, all 6 of us would become a memory. I stepped forward. Mira screamed my name. The blade came down. I caught it. The shockwave flattened every ruined building for 200 meters. The ground under my feet became a crater. My jacket ripped. My hand didn't move. The Goblin Emperor stared at me. I stared back. Then I squeezed. His S-rank black sword shattered like glass. The silence afterward was beautiful. Then the Goblin Emperor punched me. I flew through 6 buildings, a tower, and something that might have been a magical convenience store. That hurt. A lot. SSS breathing gave me endless stamina and recovery. But apparently, it did not come with SSS skin. I stood up with 3 cracked ribs. I inhaled. The ribs healed. I exhaled. The pain vanished. The Goblin Emperor charged. I smiled, because now I understood the trick. My skills looked basic only because humans used them badly. Walking wasn't about legs. Seeing wasn't about eyes. Breathing wasn't about lungs. Gripping wasn't about fingers. They were rules, and mine were ranked higher than his. I moved first. 1 step. I disappeared from the crater and appeared on the Goblin Emperor's shoulder. He turned his head. Too slow. I gripped one of the horns on his crown. The horn didn't break. Interesting. Instead, the entire giant came with it. I took another step. The Goblin Emperor left the ground. 40 meters of screaming monster flew behind me like I was dragging a balloon. I walked across the ruined city while holding his crown. And because SSS walking didn't seem interested in friction, weight, or dignity, the Emperor bounced through buildings at impossible speed. Boom, boom, boom. Every step turned another block into a crater. Behind me, Mira and the others stared as the supposed Calamity boss was used as urban demolition equipment. The Emperor roared and reached for me. I saw his fingers coming before he decided to move them. I stepped onto his wrist, then his elbow, then his forehead. I was literally walking up his body faster than his nervous system could understand what was happening. I stopped between his eyes. He crossed them to look at me. I raised my hand. He flinched. That was satisfying. I didn't punch him. My punching was normal. I hadn't awakened SSS punching. which felt unfair. So I grabbed his eyebrow and squeezed. The Goblin Emperor's entire body slammed face first into the ground. I still don't fully understand why. Maybe SSS Grip interpreted grip as ownership over whatever I held. Maybe the monster's eyebrow had become a handle attached to the rest of him. Maybe reality simply panicked and chose the funniest possible answer. Either way, the Emperor tried to rise. I held tighter. He couldn't. A monster strong enough to destroy a city was trapped because I was pinching his eyebrow. Bommy shouted from far away, "This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It's working. That's why it's stupid." The Emperor's mana exploded. Black flames covered his body. My future sight filled with warning lines. A sphere of destruction began forming in his chest. SSS seeing showed me what would happen 3 seconds later. The entire dungeon would collapse. I couldn't stop the spell by punching him. I couldn't run away because my team would die. So I did something even dumber. I inhaled, not a normal breath, a deep one. The black flames bent toward my face. The Goblin Emperor stopped roaring. Mira screamed, "Jin, what are you doing?" I had no idea, but SSS breathing converted atmospheric energy into mana. Apparently the skill had a generous definition of atmosphere. The Emperor's black fire streamed toward me, then the mana in the buildings, then the green fog, then the giant sphere of destruction in his chest. I sucked all of it into one breath. My lungs felt cold. My mana bar went past 100%, then 200, then 1000. The system stopped displaying numbers and replaced them with a question mark. I hiccuped. A beam of blue light shot out of my mouth and erased a mountain in the distance. Everybody stared. I covered my mouth. Sorry, the Goblin Emperor had shrunk. Without mana reinforcing him, he was no longer 40 meters tall. He was about 2 meters tall, skinny, confused, and still wearing a crown that was now much too large. He looked at me. I looked at him. Then he raised both hands. The dungeon declared him defeated. That should have been the end. Instead, the dungeon core appeared above the city and cracked open like an egg. Inside was an eye, a massive golden eye. It looked directly at me. My SSS seeing activated on its own. For the first time, I didn't see half a second into the future. I saw something much farther away. A black tower under a broken moon. 13 empty thrones. A door covered in human handprints. And something sitting behind that door, breathing. One breath, the vision shattered. I fell to one knee. Then the golden eye vanished. The dungeon collapsed. Mira grabbed my shoulder. "Move." I looked at the 5 hunters around me. Easy. I grabbed Mira's spear with one hand, Taesu's shield strap with the other, and told everyone else to grab somebody. Then I walked. The world folded. For one impossible instant, I stepped through a place with no color, no direction, and no sound. Something enormous turned toward me from very far away. Then my foot landed on pavement. We were outside the shopping mall. The dungeon gate behind us imploded. Reporters, emergency crews, and association hunters all froze. Mira was still holding her spear. Taesu was still holding his shield. Yuna was hanging from Taesu's backpack. Hojin was clinging to Yuna's waist. Bomi was attached to Hojin's leg and screaming. We looked like the world's worst human centipede. Director Han pushed through the crowd. "What happened?" Mira pointed at me. "He inhaled the boss." That became the third meme. I became famous by dinner. Not normal famous. International disaster famous. Clips of me catching the Goblin Emperor's sword hit every major network. Someone added romantic music to the scene where I held the monster down by its eyebrow. Another account edited my face onto a vacuum cleaner after hearing about SSS breathing. The association stopped calling me the weakest SSS rank. They started calling me a national strategic asset. That sounded much better until I learned national strategic assets needed permission to leave the country. I also learned destroying Dragonfang had cost 8.2 billion won. Director Han handed me the invoice with the calm smile of a man who had emotionally moved beyond anger. "You owe the association. I saved 6 hunters. You owe the association. I also cleared an S-rank hidden dungeon. You owe the association. I can leave this room before you blink, and we will mail the bill." I had found the first thing SSS Walking couldn't escape. Debt. That was how I ended up accepting a sponsorship from the country's richest guild, Zenith. Their guild master was one of the 12 original SSS rank hunters, Cha Sung-min, holder of SSS rank Heavenly Lightning. He had killed a sea serpent by pointing at it, and once blacked out half of Japan during a duel. When I entered Zenith Tower, he was waiting for me in a private training hall. Sung-min was tall, silver-haired, annoyingly handsome, and dressed like he expected cameras to appear at any moment. He tossed me a contract. "Join Zenith. We clear your debt. Give you 20 billion won, a penthouse, a private dungeon lab, and unlimited food." I stopped reading at unlimited food. Then I noticed the contract was 87 pages long. "What's the catch? You become my successor." "No." He blinked. Apparently people didn't tell him that often. "You haven't heard my offer. You said successor. That sounds like meetings. It includes authority over 12,000 hunters. That's 12,000 problems." Sung-min laughed. Then lightning covered his body. Every light in the training hall shattered. My skin prickled. The air smelled like metal. He said, "Fight me. If you land one touch, I'll pay your debt with no conditions." I raised an eyebrow. One touch? One. Anywhere? Anywhere. Do you promise not to complain afterward? His smile disappeared. Begin. Lightning exploded. The floor turned white. Sungmin vanished. For everybody watching from behind the barrier, he probably looked instantaneous. To SSS seeing, he looked like a man following a glowing trail. I could see where he would be. The problem was getting there. Actually, no. That wasn't a problem. I walked. Sungmin reappeared 20 meters away and threw a lightning spear. I was already behind him. I poked his shoulder. Done. He spun around. I poked his other shoulder. Twice. He blasted the entire arena. I stepped through the lightning. Not around it. Through it. SSS-Walking decided that electricity counted as terrain. For half a second I was strolling on a river of blue lightning like it was a sidewalk. I reached Sungmin and tapped his forehead. 3. His eye twitched. Then things became personal. The ceiling opened. Clouds gathered above the tower. A pillar of lightning descended with enough power to melt reinforced concrete. Sungmin shouted, "Heaven's judgment!" I saw the attack. I also saw 87 branching futures where the blast destroyed something expensive. I was already in enough debt, so I inhaled. The lightning bent. Sungmin's face changed. What? I breathed harder. The entire pillar twisted sideways and poured into my mouth. It tasted like licking a battery during a thunderstorm. My hair stood straight up. My mana gauge became a question mark again. Sungmin stared at me in horror. I accidentally burped. A tiny spark left my mouth and vaporized his shoe. He looked down at his bare foot, then at me, then at his bare foot again. I tried not to laugh. I failed. 5 minutes later, my debt was gone. Sungmin also added a new clause to Zenith's training regulations. Jin Ryu was forbidden from consuming guildmasters. I didn't join his guild, but he did give me access to Zenith's database because he wanted to understand what I was. That was where I discovered the first truly disturbing fact. There had been another hunter like me, not in modern history. 312 years ago, before Gates officially appeared, an old royal archive described a man known only as the Pilgrim. He possessed 4 perfect human acts: breath without exhaustion, sight beyond time, hands that held the unholdable, and steps that crossed worlds. That was me, or someone with the same skills. The final line of the archive had been burned, but a surviving fragment said, "When the 5th act awakens, the door will remember mankind." I stared at the words for a long time. Sungmin leaned over my shoulder. "Do you have a 5th skill?" "No." "Any strange urges?" "I want fried chicken." I mean awakening-related urges. Still fried chicken. Before he could answer, every alarm in Zenith Tower activated. Red lights flashed. The wall screens changed to emergency broadcasts. A gate had opened over Seoul, not on the ground, in the sky. It was 3 kilometers wide. Black chains hung from its edges, each one covered in glowing symbols. The pressure from the gate forced normal people to their knees across half the city. Then a message appeared in front of every awakened hunter in Korea. Special raid event. Tower of Selection has manifested. Entry requirement, S rank or higher. Failure condition, extinction. Sungmin looked at me. I looked at him. "That seems bad." He nodded. "Very." Then the next message appeared. 13 candidates detected. There were exactly 13 SSS rank hunters alive, including me. Within 6 hours, every SSS rank hunter on Earth was being flown, teleported, summoned, or in one case carried inside a giant golden coffin toward Seoul. I met them on the roof of Zenith Tower. These were people I'd grown up seeing on television. Lucia Veyron from France, who could freeze time for 9 seconds. Marcus Vale from America, whose SSS rank Titan body let him throw aircraft carriers. Sato Ren from Japan, whose 1,000-blade domain could cut anything inside a kilometer. Anaya Rao from India, who could summon divine beasts. The masked hunter called Zero, whose ability had never been publicly revealed, and 7 others who all gave off the sort of pressure that made ordinary S-rank hunters look like interns. Then there was me. I wore sneakers. Marcus looked me up and down. "This is the walking kid?" I hated him immediately. Lucia smiled. I saw the eyebrow video. Very elegant technique. I hated her slightly less. Sato didn't even look at me. If his abilities are as crude as reported, he will become a liability. I looked at the katana on his waist. "Is that expensive?" He finally glanced at me. "Priceless." I smiled. He put one hand protectively over the sword. "Good instincts." The gate opened wider. A staircase descended from the sky. Thousands of black steps reached all the way to the tower roof. Everyone prepared to climb. I took one step and appeared at the top. Then I realized nobody else could do that. I looked back. 12 SSS hunters were staring up at me from 3 kilometers below. I waved. Marcus shouted something I couldn't hear. A system message appeared. First candidate has entered. Solo priority challenge activated. All other candidates locked out for 10 minutes. I stared at the message, then down at the 12 strongest hunters on Earth, then at the gigantic black doors in front of me. Oh, the doors opened. A fist the size of a building came through and punched me into the tower. I bounced down a stone hallway, smashed through 3 pillars, and landed inside a throne room. The doors closed behind me. A giant armored knight stood from a throne. His title filled my vision. Gatekeeper of the first step. Level tokens. Immeasurable. He pointed a spear at me. Unworthy creature. Kneel. I stood up and wiped blood from my lip. You know, people keep saying that right before something embarrassing happens. He thrust the spear. I saw the future, but this time, the future stabbed me anyway. The spear changed direction after I moved. I twisted aside, but the blade cut my shoulder. For the first time since awakening, SSS seeing had been fooled. The gatekeeper laughed. You see possibility. I command certainty. Every attack I choose is destined to strike. That was a problem. He thrust again. I saw 30 possible paths. All 30 ended inside my chest. So I didn't dodge. I grabbed the spear. The blade pierced my palm. My grip closed around the shaft. The gatekeeper pulled. Nothing happened. He pulled harder. Still nothing. His certainty said the attack had to hit. My grip said the weapon belonged to me now. Reality had 2 SSS-level arguments and no adult supervision. The spear began vibrating. Cracks spread through the air around my hand. The gatekeeper's helmet tilted. Release it. No. Release it. You release it. It is my divine weapon. Not anymore. I squeezed. The spear shattered. The gatekeeper stared at the empty handle. I had seen that expression before. The Goblin Emperor wore it better. The knight roared and summoned 1,000 spears above me. Every one carried the same law of certainty. No matter where I moved, they would hit. So I took a step in a direction that didn't exist. For one instant, the throne room disappeared. I was back in that colorless place between distances. The same presence I had felt during the dungeon escape was closer now. Something breathed in the dark. Then I stepped back into the throne room. All 1,000 spears had already struck the place where I used to be. The gatekeeper froze. Impossible. I understood. His attacks were certain inside the world. SSS walking let me leave the world. I grinned. You should have aimed outside reality. Then I walked behind him, grabbed the back of his armor, and took another step. We appeared 10 kilometers above the throne room. The gatekeeper looked down. There was no floor. I let go. He fell. I walked down beside him. Not fell. Walked. The empty air behaved like stairs under my feet. The gatekeeper flailed while I casually descended next to his face. How are you doing that? Walking. That is not walking. Finally, someone understood. He crashed through the roof of his own throne room and made a hole shaped exactly like an armored knight. A system message appeared. First step cleared. Reward. Tokens. 1 skill evolution token. A glowing coin appeared in my hand. I stared at it. A skill evolution token could upgrade any skill by 1 rank. Mine were already SSS. The coin began shaking. Then all 4 of my skills flashed at once. A new message appeared. Compatible anomaly detected. Evolution cannot increase rank. Evolution will reveal hidden function. 4 choices appeared. Breathing. Inhale more than energy. Seeing. Observe more than futures. Gripping. Hold more than objects. Walking. Reach more than places. I probably should have thought carefully. I didn't. I picked seeing. The world opened. I don't mean that poetically. The world actually opened. For a second, everything around me split into layers. I saw the stone floor, then the mana flowing beneath it, then glowing lines that seemed to be the rules holding the tower together. I looked at the broken throne and saw its age. I looked at the gatekeeper's shattered spear and saw the hands that forged it. I looked at my own fingers and immediately stopped because seeing the future history of my fingernails was information I did not need. A new description appeared. SSS seeing. Revealed function. Truth sight. Observe hidden structures, falsehoods, bindings, weaknesses, names, and conceptual conditions. Warning. Some things can see back. I read the last sentence twice. Then something saw back, far below the throne room, beneath layers of stone that weren't really stone. A giant eye opened. It had no pupil. It had a mouth in the center. The mouth smiled. I immediately turned truth sight off. Nope. The tower doors behind me exploded inward. The other 12 SSS hunters stormed into the room, weapons ready. Marcus looked at the crater where the gatekeeper had landed. Then at me. You cleared it already? He slipped. Lucia looked up through the hole in the ceiling. From 10 kilometers? Very slippery floor. Sato's eyes narrowed. You're lying. Truth sight flickered automatically. Above his head, I saw a tiny label. Emotion. Annoyed. Hidden condition. Desperately wants to ask how I broke the spear. I smiled. Sato frowned harder. This skill was going to ruin every serious conversation I ever had. The next floor opened before anyone could question me. A staircase appeared in the center of the room, but instead of going up, it curved sideways through the wall. The system announced the second challenge. 13 candidates remain. Second step. Prove superiority. Only 6 may advance. Marcus cracked his knuckles. Sung-min covered himself in lightning. Sato drew his priceless sword. I looked at the sword. He immediately stepped away from me. Good instincts again. We entered the next chamber and found an arena floating over an endless black ocean. 13 stone platforms surrounded a central ring. Above us, a huge hourglass started turning. The rule appeared. Knock another candidate into the abyss to earn 1 mark. 3 marks guarantee advancement. Candidates with 0 marks will be erased. Everyone went silent. Then all 12 hunters looked at me. I pointed at myself. Why me? Marcus grinned. Because you're new. That's discrimination. It's tradition. Then the strongest hunters on Earth attacked me at the same time. Lightning covered the sky. A giant divine tiger appeared behind Anaya. Sato's sword released a storm of invisible cuts. Lucia froze time. Marcus jumped so hard his platform disintegrated. Zero raised one hand, and my skills vanished from my status window. That was the moment I learned his ability. SSS null. He could erase awakened skills. For the first time since awakening, I couldn't see the future. I couldn't recover mana. I couldn't feel the impossible connection between my feet and distance. I was just Jin Ryu, a normal guy, and 12 monsters were trying to throw me into a bottomless ocean. Marcus's fist hit me first. I flew backward. Lucia's frozen time released. Sato's cuts arrived. I ducked one, barely avoided another, and took the third across my chest. Blood sprayed. I fell off the platform. The abyss swallowed me. Above, the system declared, Candidate Jin Ryu eliminated. Everyone relaxed. Then I grabbed the edge of the platform. Marcus looked down. What? I pulled myself up. Zero stared at me. Your skills are nullified. Yeah, I climbed onto the platform. Then how are you still here? I looked at my hand gripping the stone, then at my feet. Then I laughed, because Zero had erased my skills. He had not erased walking. He had not erased breathing. He had not erased seeing. He had not erased gripping. Those were things my body had done for 18 years before I ever awakened. The SSS-rank versions were gone. The basic human versions remained. And apparently that was enough to make the system confused. My status window flickered. Error. Skill and action overlap exceeds nullification authority. Zero's mask tilted. That's impossible. People keep saying that today. My SSS skills returned all at once. I breathed. My cut healed. I saw 12 attack paths appeared. I gripped the stone beneath my feet. Then I walked, not away, around. SSS walking interpreted the underside of the platform as perfectly acceptable terrain. I stepped over the edge, strolled upside down beneath everybody, and came up behind Marcus. He turned. Too late. I grabbed his belt. He weighed almost 200 kilos without armor. SSS grip did not care. I lifted him with one hand. Marcus's eyes widened. Don't you dare. I threw him into the abyss. 1 mark. Sung-min started laughing. Marcus's voice echoed from below. I hate this kid. He could fly by kicking the air with raw strength, so he came back 5 seconds later. But the mark still counted. Now everyone stopped treating me like the easy target. That somehow made things worse. The arena became a natural disaster convention. Lucia froze time and tried to push me off the platform while I couldn't move. But evolved seeing showed me the activation condition before she used it. She had to stop her own heartbeat for 1 instant. The moment I saw her heartbeat hesitate, I stepped outside the world's normal flow. Time froze. Lucia moved through the frozen arena. So did I. She stopped walking. I kept walking. For the first time in her career, the woman who owned 9 seconds of frozen time had company. She looked genuinely offended. How? I pointed at the ground. Still a place. Time is not a place. Tell my feet. I walked past her, took her by the wrist, and gently stepped out over the abyss. Time resumed. Lucia dropped. 2 marks. She teleported back onto her platform using an emergency artifact and immediately started laughing. I like him. Sato did not. He activated Thousand Blade Domain. A kilometer of space became his sword. There was no safe direction. Every line, every angle, every point could become a cut. Truth Sight showed me the weakness. His domain didn't create blades. It defined distance as an edge. That was unfortunate for him. Distance and I were already in a complicated relationship. He swung. The air split. I stepped forward. His domain tried to cut the distance between us. SSS walking removed the distance first. I appeared inside his guard. My hand closed gently around the flat of his priceless katana. Sato's face went white. Don't, I smiled. 3 marks. I didn't break the sword. I grabbed Sato instead and threw him. He vanished into the abyss while still hugging his katana. The system announced my advancement. Then the arena cracked. Something below the black ocean moved. The competition stopped instantly. A hand rose from the abyss. Not a monster hand. A human hand. It was so large each fingernail was the size of a city block. It grabbed the arena. Truth sight activated against my will. A name appeared. Discarded candidate number 1. Status: alive. Age: 312 years. I forgot how to breathe for exactly 1 second. 312 years. The same number from the archive about the pilgrim. The giant hand pulled itself upward. A face emerged from the darkness. It looked human, except its skin was covered in thousands of closed eyes. When it spoke, every eye opened. Give me the walker. The 13 strongest hunters on Earth all turned toward me. I pointed at myself again. I was getting tired of doing that. The creature smiled. At last, the 4 acts returned. Sung Min raised a lightning spear. Who are you? The creature ignored him. Its thousands of eyes stayed on me. I was the first chosen vessel. I received strength, fire, dominion, destruction. I climbed this tower. I reached the door. The black ocean shook, and the door rejected me because I was no longer human enough to open it. A chill went through me. The creature reached toward the platform. You are different. Your power hides inside ordinary acts. You are the key they were waiting for. I had several questions. Unfortunately, Marcus solved the conversation by punching it in the face. His fist created a shockwave that split the black ocean for kilometers. The creature's head snapped sideways. Marcus landed beside me. We can discuss ancient prophecies after we kill the ugly thing. I nodded. Reasonable. Then the creature slapped him through 4 platforms. Less reasonable. All 13 of us attacked. For about 30 seconds, I understood why SSS-rank hunters were treated like national weapons. Sung Min's lightning turned the sky blue. Anaya summoned a serpent made of stars. Lucia froze pieces of time around the creature's joints. Sato's domain sliced through mountains of flesh. Marcus punched holes straight through its arms. Zero erased its regeneration. The others bombarded it with gravity, storms, curses, and a giant flaming hammer that came from somewhere above the clouds. The creature healed anyway. Every wound became another eye. Every new eye fired a black beam. The arena vanished piece by piece. Truth sight showed me something terrifying. We weren't damaging it. Not really. Its body was only a projection. The actual creature was still below us, deeper than the tower, wrapped around something that looked like a chain. And on that chain was a lock. A hand-shaped lock. I knew what I had to do. I hated what I had to do. I shouted, "Keep it busy." Sung Min yelled back, "Where are you going?" "Down." Then I walked into the abyss. The black ocean wasn't water. It was compressed space. Every step carried me through memories that didn't belong to me. I saw hunters from centuries ago entering hidden gates with spears and torches. I saw the pilgrim. He looked like me. Not exactly. Same dark hair. Same eyes. Same deeply unfortunate habit of walking toward dangerous things because nobody else could. He climbed the tower with 4 skills: breathing, seeing, gripping, walking. He reached a black door. Then someone stabbed him from behind. The memory shattered before I saw the killer. I kept descending. At the bottom of the abyss, I found the real body of the discarded candidate. It was wrapped around the tower like a sleeping serpent. The chain pierced through its chest and continued downward into darkness. A golden lock sat between its ribs. I walked onto the chain. The creature noticed me. Every eye across its body opened. Stop. Black beams filled the darkness. I saw them before they fired. I walked between them. Some curved. I stepped sideways through space. Some appeared directly on top of me. I walked through the gap between moments. One beam had no path at all. It simply declared that my body would be erased. Truth sight showed the declaration written like a sentence across reality. Jin Ryu will cease to exist. I stared at the glowing words. Then I gripped the sentence. My fingers closed around nothing. Something resisted. I pulled. The words tore loose from reality like a strip of paper. The erasure beam vanished. I stared at the sentence in my hand. SSS grip had evolved without a token. A message appeared. Hidden function recognized through use. SSS gripping. Conceptual hold awakened. You may hold that which has no physical form, provided you can perceive it. I looked at the sentence. Then at the giant creature. Then I got an idea so stupid it had to work. Truth sight revealed thousands of glowing concepts around the monster. Regeneration. Immortality. Ownership of the abyss. Hatred. Hunger. I reached out and grabbed regeneration. It felt like holding a wet rope made of electricity. The creature screamed. I pulled. A glowing thread ripped out of its body. Far above, all the wounds from the other hunters stopped closing. Someone shouted in surprise. I grabbed immortality next. That one fought back. The chain shook. My arm cracked. I breathed. The bone healed. I pulled harder. The concept snapped free. The giant creature suddenly became very interested in self-preservation. Wait, I kept walking toward the lock. We can make an agreement. No, I know who killed the pilgrim. I stopped. That was irritatingly effective. The creature smiled through 1,000 mouths. Open the lock, and I will tell you. Truth sight showed me its intent. Lie. Secondary intent. Eat me immediately after I opened the lock. I nodded like I believed it. Fine. The creature relaxed. I reached the golden lock. It was shaped like a human hand. Exactly as I'd seen in the dungeon vision, I placed my palm against it. The lock recognized me. A message appeared. 4 acts confirmed. 5th act absent. Door access denied. The creature roared. Force it. I smiled. I wasn't trying to open it. I gripped the lock and ripped it off the chain. The entire abyss screamed. The discarded candidate froze. What did you do? You told me to open the lock. You removed it. Open enough, the chain snapped. But instead of freeing the creature, the broken chain whipped upward and wrapped around its throat. The lock had apparently been holding the chain in place, not holding the prisoner. The creature's eyes widened. Truth Sight showed me the real mechanism. The tower itself was using the monster as an anchor. Without the lock, the tower began pulling the chain upward. The creature screamed as its enormous body was dragged toward the higher floors. I grabbed the chain. SSS grip took ownership. Then I walked upward. Fast. The entire ancient monster followed. Above, the 12 other hunters were still fighting its projection when the real creature smashed through the floor beneath them. Marcus looked down, then up, then at me walking vertically along the chain while dragging a monster the size of a mountain. He shouted, "What are you doing?" "Taking out the trash." I reached the remains of the arena, took one final step, and swung the chain. The discarded candidate flew upward through the tower. It crashed through the 2nd floor, then the 3rd, then the 4th, then the 5th. We heard explosions getting farther away. A final impact shook the entire structure. The system became silent. Then messages started appearing so quickly they covered my vision. 2nd step cleared. 3rd step cleared by environmental elimination. 4th step cleared by unauthorized boss displacement. 5th step cleared. 6th step boss has left assigned combat zone. Attempting recalculation. Error. Attempting recalculation. Error. Candidate Jin Ryu has violated intended progression. I looked around. Can I get a reward for that? The system paused. Then one final message appeared. No. Marcus started laughing so hard he had to sit down. Even Sato smiled. That was when the tower tried to kill me personally. Every surviving floor collapsed at once. Walls folded inward. Gravity reversed. The black ocean rose. The ceiling became a mouth filled with gears. The system announced, "Emergency correction initiated. Remove anomalous candidate." I felt offended. I cleared the floors. Progression invalid. I defeated the boss. Method invalid. You never said I couldn't throw him upstairs. Method extremely invalid. Sungmin stared at the floating message. Are you arguing with a dungeon? It's being unreasonable. A wall tried to crush us. I gripped it. The entire wall stopped. Another wall came from behind. Marcus punched it apart. Sato cut open the ceiling. Lucia froze the collapsing floor. For the first time, the 13 of us actually fought like a team, and we were winning. Then Zero said, "Something is wrong." Truth Sight activated. He was right. The tower wasn't collapsing. It was changing shape. All the floors were folding around one central point. The black door from my vision. We had skipped the trials, so the tower was bringing the final trial to us. Stone peeled away. Chains withdrew. The black door emerged in the middle of the ruined arena. 13 empty thrones appeared around it, exactly like my vision. The air became heavy. Every SS hunter stopped moving. A heartbeat came from behind the door. Boom. My knees shook. Boom. The lights went out. Boom. Even Marcus stepped backward. Then breathing came from the other side. Slow, deep, perfect. I knew that sound. Not because I had heard it before, because my body recognized it. My SSS breathing responded. The 2 breaths synchronized. In, out, in, out. My mana began rising without me doing anything. So did the pressure in the room. The black door developed a crack. Lucia whispered, "Jin, stop breathing." I held my breath. The sound behind the door continued. My chest moved anyway. I physically couldn't stop matching it. Truth Sight flickered on. I saw 5 handprints on the door. 4 were glowing, walking, breathing, seeing, gripping. The 5th remained dark. Above it was a word I couldn't read. The letters changed every time I looked at them. Laughing, thinking, speaking, sleeping, eating, dying, living. Every basic human act appeared for one fraction of a second. Then the words settled. Remembering. A cold feeling crawled down my spine. The 5th act was remembering, and I didn't have it. Not yet. The door opened 1 centimeter. Every hunter attacked at once. Sungmin hit it with heavenly lightning. Sato cut it. Marcus punched it. Anaya's divine beasts slammed into it. Nothing happened. I saw the truth written across the door. Cannot be closed from this side. That meant there was another side. I walked forward. Singmin grabbed my shoulder. Don't. If it opens, whatever is behind there comes out. And if you go through, maybe I can close it from the other side. Maybe you die. I looked at the crack. Something moved beyond it. An eye appeared. Human size this time. Dark iris. Black pupil. exactly like mine. Then a voice came through the gap. Jin Ryu. Everyone froze. The voice knew my name. It spoke again. You took longer than last time. My blood went cold. Truth sight tried to activate. Pain exploded behind my eyes. The thing on the other side saw back immediately. For 1 second I saw a man standing in darkness. Same height as me. Same face. Older. Covered in scars. Behind him were thousands of worlds, each one destroyed. Then he smiled, and I saw his skill list. Walking, SSS. Breathing, SS. Seeing, SSS. Gripping, SSS. Remembering, SS. My status window went red. Warning, complete human detected. The man behind the door reached through the gap. His fingers closed around the edge. My SSS grip activated automatically. So did his. The door stopped moving. He pulled from one side. I pulled from the other. The tower shook. Cracks spread through the sky outside. Sungmin shouted something, but I couldn't hear him over the sound of reality splitting. The other man's smile widened. Good, you're stronger this time. Who are you? You already know. No, I don't. His expression changed. For the first time, he looked almost sad. Exactly. Then my evolved seeing showed me one last thing. A memory. Not his, mine. I saw myself standing at this same door. I saw the 13 thrones burning. I saw Sungmin dead. Lucia dead. Marcus dead. The entire sky filled with gates. I saw myself place one hand on the 5th mark. I heard myself say, "Take it all. Make me forget." Then the memory vanished. I stumbled. The man behind the door pulled harder. The gap widened. 2 centimeters. 3. Black wind poured into the tower. Where it touched stone, the stone aged thousands of years and turned to dust. Where it touched mana, the mana went silent. Zero tried to erase it. His SSS null shattered. He dropped to one knee, staring at his empty status window. The man behind the door laughed. You can't nullify what existed before skills. That sounded familiar. Too familiar. I tightened my grip until my fingers bled. I breathed. The wounds healed. I stepped backward. SSS walking anchored me across 1,000 possible positions at once. I saw every movement he might make. He saw mine too. For the first time, my 4 ridiculous abilities had met their equal. No, their better version. Because he had 5. Remembering. Whatever that skill did, it was the reason he knew me. It was the reason I didn't know him. And I suddenly understood something terrifying. The pilgrim from 312 years ago had not been another person. Truth sight showed his face again. Mine. Then another memory appeared. Me walking through a battlefield under a red moon. Another. Me breathing inside a dead world. Another. Me gripping the hand of someone I couldn't see. Another. Me standing before the black door again and again and again. Different clothes. Different centuries. Same face. Same 4 skills. Each time, I reached the door. Each time, something happened. Each time, I forgot. My legs almost gave out. The man behind the door whispered, "This is your 14th climb." The other hunters heard him. Marcus stopped smiling. Lucia stared at me. Sato's sword lowered. Sungmin said, "Jin, what does he mean?" I didn't answer, because I had no idea. Then the 5th handprint on the door flickered. Remembering. My status window changed. A new skill slot appeared. Locked. Requirement. Recover 1 erased memory. At the same moment, something small fell from my jacket pocket. The golden lock I had ripped from the abyss. It hit the ground. Click. A hidden compartment opened. Inside was a tiny piece of paper. Old. Burned at the edges. Written in my own handwriting. I saw only 6 words before the man behind the door reached farther through the gap. Do not awaken the 5th act. Then another line appeared beneath it as truth sight removed an illusion hiding the rest. If you do, he becomes you. I looked up. The man on the other side was still smiling. The tower announced a new event. Final step has begun. Choose the complete human. Every throne lit up. The 13 SSS hunters were dragged backward by invisible force, 1 toward each seat. Sungmin's lightning exploded as he resisted. Marcus dug his hands into the floor. Lucia froze time, but the thrones kept moving inside her frozen world. One by one, they were forced down. Chains wrapped around their arms. The system spoke again. 12 witnesses secured. I stared at the empty 13th throne, then at the door, then at the man who might have been me. Candidate Jin Ryu, recover your final act and open the door. The man pulled. I pulled back. The gap widened another inch. Behind him, I finally saw what the thousands of destroyed worlds were surrounding. Not an army, not a god, not a monster. A road, an endless road stretching through broken universes. And on that road were footprints. My footprints. Millions of them, walking toward our world. The man leaned close enough that only the door separated our faces. Come on, Jin. He raised his other hand. 5 SS rank skills glowed around his fingers. You know what comes next. I tightened my grip. I took one breath. I looked at every possible future I could still see. In every single one, the door opened. So I did the only thing that had worked for me since the day everyone laughed at my awakening. I ignored the obvious answer. Then I lifted one foot.